Let me give you the following scenario. Your child, let's say a boy, he does something wrong. You send him to his room and you remove all his interests such as computer games, etc. And the next day you still go on about what upset you that time, what he did wrong. And every day and every month and every year you go on and on and on about what he did. Do you think that is a good thing? Do you think that because you've gone on every day for, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years, he now understands what you're saying and he won't do it again? No, the truth is he won't understand what you're saying anymore because you've overdone it. It's a bit like putting too much salt in your food. You'd say, oh, you put too much salt in my food, it tastes bloody awful. You've ruined it. And that's what you've done. The first reprimand was okay. But thereafter, you ruined it by going on and on and on. And the more you went on at this boy, the more damage you did to him. When I say damage, he became hateful and resentful. You know, every one of us, including bad people, we all have a sense of righteousness. Okay, in many people, that sense of righteousness is wrong, is perverted, but it's still there. And that's what pushes people. And that's what we do at our prisons. Now, I think it's Denmark. I'm pretty sure it's Denmark. Over there, they treat prisoners in an open prison, so to speak. It's not even like prison because they can go to work and they can even have girlfriends coming over to stay. And they're put in not a cell, but their own little bungalow or something. Their studio flat, I guess. And as I said, they can live a normal life. And they found, by doing that, a lot of these people, including murderers and violent people, they haven't returned to prison. And there's another man who comes to mind. He was a very, very violent man. I think we're talking about Scotland, and I think we're talking about the 70s, maybe even the 60s, I'm not sure now. But they made a film on him. I did see the film. And this man, he was so violent, he used to go around to pubs and places and get protection money from them. And then one day, someone else tried to move in to his territory, and he went straight up to the fella, broke a glass and cut his throat and killed him. He got life imprisonment. He had been in prison previous to that through other violent acts. But what happened, he wasn't changed at all by prison because it was that repetitiveness of saying, you've done wrong, we're going to punish you, year in, year out. And just a reminder, if you like my videos, please give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Thank you. And he became, as I said, resentful, just as that child I was talking about, that boy. And in these last 2 years, they put him in another prison, much easier going prison. And he said when he went in there, he was looking for trouble as usual. And he had a box he didn't have a bag, he had a box of his clothes and possessions, the few possessions he had from the other prison. And they were tied with string. And the guard, I don't think he was dressed in guard's clothes, a uniform, he was dressed in normal clothing as far as I know. He pulled out a knife and said, use this to cut it. And he was amazed, being given a dangerous weapon, so to speak, to cut the string from the parcel. And from that moment, it changed him. He became a different person. All the hate suddenly left him and he saw things differently. That's the trouble, you see. With prisons today, especially Americans' prisons, they're so hard on people that they build hate, and this hate just builds up, and they can't let it go because they're being watched by the prison authorities constantly. And if they do anything, they can even go outside to outside court and get more added to their sentence. And so this is the problem. Most of the prisoners in America do come back again and again, and of course, if they are into violence, it gets worse every time. And no wonder, they're treated so badly with violence. And there's violence not just from the prison staffs, but also from the fellow inmates. And especially as some of these inmates just like to do violence anyway. Now we got to, apart from the sex crimes I'm talking about here, apart from sex crimes, I'm talking about rape, where the victim didn't want sex. That's a different thing. But apart from that, all the other prisoners, all the other crimes, people can change. Sex criminals cannot change. It's just part of them. But thieves and violent people can change. You just need to treat them well and show them how to do things. In prison, of course, they're taught to just sit in a cell and just stew there in their anger. What we should be doing is what Denmark does: treat them as normal and show them there is a life without turning to violence, without going back to prison, without stealing. You can enjoy life. This is what they haven't been taught as children normally. That's why they've gone off the rails, so to speak. Denmark's shown us the way, but no one else is following. And that's because, for some reason, people are so stupid. Well, that's probably the reason, actually. People are so stupid that they allow anger and hatred and a sense of revenge and a sense of righteousness to prevail on these criminals through their prison sentence. It's not enough for them to lock them away. And to keep men away from women in prison is one of the worst things you can do. That also brings out a violent nature because of frustration. Sexual frustration brings out violence in men and hatred in men. And of course, that also leads to hatred of women. What a man can't get, what he loves so much, if he can't get it, and that that love turns to hatred. It's a psychological thing to protect us. Instead of crying about something, instead of having a bleeding heart, so to speak, it's much easier for us where we don't get hurt so much if we can hate. So we hate. And scientists have found that love and hate come from the same place in the mind. That's why we hear so often about people who are in love, one of the spouses will kill the other. No, if we can make a big change in our laws, in the way we see crime, because let's face it, these people who we are keeping in there year in, year out, eventually they're going to be let out, most of them. Let out into our society. Do you really want someone who's been treated so badly every day, year in, year out, for 10 or 15 or 20 years to be set free? What do you think he's going to do? Do you think he's going to suddenly get a job and say, oh, I'm terribly sorry for what I've done. I love you all? Of course not. He hates everyone, man, woman, child, everyone. He hates society in general, and anyone who gets in his way, he's prepared to kill, at least hurt. Remember what I've said in some of my other videos. Whatever you practice, whether it be good or bad, you will get better at it. No, we've got to teach them how to live normally. We've got to set them up in such a way. These prisons have got to be really open and set people up in such a way that they can live the same life they would live outside, except they wouldn't be allowed to get drunk. They'd be allowed to drink, but they would be punished if they, the block or something, if they got drunk. And certain people who, because I have known a few people, when they drink, they become evil, really evil. Those people wouldn't be allowed to drink, of course. But sex, yeah, they must have sex. Prisoners must be able to have girls in prison. Why should we want them to do perverted things? Because men, they can't change their sexual feelings. They don't just go, just because the prison door slams, it's still there. And that turns to violence, and also it turns to homosexuality and rape. No, we've got to turn away from these perversions. And as I've always said, if you go to the foundations of these things, prisons, etc., and the way we see prisoners, it's because of religion. Religion is the basis of all that you think and do. It's the basis of the society that we live in. People don't realise that, but it really is. As I've always said, religion is illogical. It's not logical at all. They're not reasonable, but we have to change if we want a society which is civilised. If you don't heed my warnings, the terrible things that criminals do is only going to get worse, and there's going to be even more criminals out there.